Welcome to week 4 for strategic development. This week, we're going to be continuing looking at our strategic analysis with the view that we need to identify our strategic position. So we've looked at a range of different elements for strategic analysis. So we've been looking at some internal elements. So think about the company, what's going on within the company, external elements. So what's going on in the wider world, the wider environment. We've looked at competition. And we started to think about we're starting to think about stakeholder analysis and thinking about who's involved with our organization and thinking about how we affect them. So far we've concentrated perhaps on some of these external factors. We have looked at some internal bits. We've looked at SWOT, so strengths and weaknesses of SWOT are very much internal, and then we've looked at sort of external element, looking at opportunities and threats that go on there. And obviously, we've also looked at pestle analysis. So those elements are looking at the external environment, wider business environment, political, economic, social, technological, ecological, and legal issues. What's an opportunity, what's a threat to the business, what could we take advantage of, and what might be threat to our success. We've also looked at competition. So you guys have been looking at Porter's 5 forces. 5 forces. So we've started to build up and look at a lot of different models and trying to look at a situation from lots of different angles rather than just, oh, well, it's this. We've sort of gotten, you now have a range of tools, strategic analysis tools that will enable you to come up with some kind of idea of what an organization's position is. We're going to continue this. So this week we are continuing looking at some of these areas, and I'm trying to choose a pen color here. What color should I go for? There we go. So we're going to be looking at stakeholders. So anybody that's got an interest in our organization. So we'll be looking at Mendelow's matrix. So if you've looked at Mendelow's matrix before, the idea is that we can see where our stakeholders are now, and then what we can do is plot them on Mendelow's matrix, and then if we're looking at choosing a strategy, we can consider where our stakeholders may move to if we implement that strategy and whether it's acceptable to them. And then later on, we sort of think about, okay, well, how do we deal with that when we're implementing our strategy? So identifying our stakeholders and understanding, what sort of power they have over us and what sort of interest they have in our company is something that we're going to be looking at. And the other thing is that we're going to be looking at this session is continuing thinking about the external environment and looking at how organizations get a competitive advantage because of where they're located, so the country they're positioned in. So why are some countries particularly good at manufacturing cars, others are particularly good at producing electronics, others are good at producing software and applications and things like that. So why is it that particular areas of the world, particular countries are able to perform better than others? So that one is Porter's diamond. And that has given us a bit more about globalization, a bit more about understanding countries and how they're competitive. So the idea being that all of this feeds into helping us identify our strategic position. Once we understand our strategic position, we can then move on to start thinking about different strategies that we can adopt, and then we look at the next stage, which is strategic choice. So by the end of this week, we will have looked at many different aspects of external analysis, and then looking towards next week, we'll be looking a little bit more about our internal bits. So where we're thinking about SWOT analysis, strengths and weaknesses, we're kind of expanding that out from the generic points that you've probably looked at before. So we've got quite a bit to sort of fill in there, which will be week 5. So sort of looking at resources, competencies, all things like that. And then that will complete our strategic analysis bank of tools and models that we can use to identify a strategic position. And then we'll be able to sort of come up with this is where we think the company is, this is what we think they can do, or this is what they're lacking. What strategy do we then go and adopt? So quite a bit going on this week, filling in some gaps on your strategic positioning through your new strategic analysis tools. Work through those, participate in the activities that we've got in the live session. We're starting to gear up now to finish looking at these tools with a view to having a go at our first question. So we'll be looking at a mock question for you to work through. So it's important that you make sure that you complete the pre-sessional material, the online material within your live session, but also make sure you do all the post activities as well. I haven't just whacked those up there just to, for something to fill some time for you. The idea is that they are relevant to some of the tasks or some of the questions that you've got coming up in the exam. So there we go. Have a look through the videos and good luck.